As a migrant professional, are you feel undervalued? Let me start something many migrants quietly feel. You have a degree, maybe a couple of degrees and masters, you have enough experience, you have done some serious work back in your country. But in the UK, you feel undervalued. You might be working below your level or doing more than your job title or watching others progress faster. This is very common for migrants. Let me be very clear with you. This is not because of migrants are less capable. It's more about how the UK job market understands or sometimes misunderstands your experience. I used to be a head of HR back in Sri Lanka as well as in Africa. When I was to start applying for jobs, one of the biggest challenge I face is I don't have enough UK experience. At the same time, I do have experience which is more senior than the jobs that they are looking for. I had a big doubt about this and I was so worried about my next move in the UK. And I was in a one point, I thought that I won't be able to find a job related to HR in the UK. And I was so frustrated. Believe me, I can understand your frustration because you might be struggling same as me. As I said before, one of the biggest reason for undervalued migrants in the UK, and they often use the phrase of you don't have enough UK experience. But at the same time, in my mind, give me a work, then only I'll be able to find enough work experience in the UK. The biggest reason for that is employers often feel safer and comfortable hiring someone who knows the local system, who has understanding about how it behaves and regulation and workplace culture as well. I don't blame them. After start working in the UK only, I realized UK workplaces has its own work culture and sometimes it's very, very different than the work culture that I used to work before. Main reason that is managers try to avoid the risk. That's why they just don't want to hire someone who doesn't have UK work experience and who has understanding about the UK work culture, even though you are highly qualified for the job. UK employers are often recognize UK company names, the nature of the job, and what kind of experience you might be having after working on that particular sector or particular post. But when it's come to the foreign companies, they have less understanding about how those companies behave and what actually your role is in it. Because of that, experience outside the UK is often unfamiliar for them. They try to avoid recruiting people with experience from outside the UK just to avoid the risk. For an example, a senior role in another country may not translate well in the UK segment. For an example, team leader post in the UK is kind of a senior role, but back in Sri Lanka, it's more equal to a supervisor. So there are some different work structures in the other countries and the UK, and most of the employees are well aware about this part. Because of that, sometimes your CV does not explain or your CV does not portray well about your previous role. At the same time, when you say the general manager in the UK, sometimes it's more about a manager role, especially on restaurant sector or the hospitality sector. But back in Sri Lanka or any other country, most of the Asian countries or Africa, general manager is a very senior role, which is often responsible for a larger businesses and controlling larger workforce. This creates uncertainty, and often employers are uncertain about something. They always try to select a safer route. Including me, many migrants accept lower grade jobs just to get into the system, just to get find a job related to their field. Including myself, many migrants accept lower grade roles just to get into the system. My first HR related job in the UK is a people administrator, which is an entry level role. But back in Sri Lanka, I used to be a head of HR, group head of HR, general manager, and held various senior positions over a decade. But still, I couldn't penetrate the job market without having UK experience. Another reason is migrants feel undervalued is survival. Bills need to be paid and you need to get involved with the area that you are capable of or interested on. So you just try to get a job somehow related to your previous experience, which will gives you sort of a satisfaction of doing it. As I said before, so many migrants accept the jobs below their level just to get into the system. But The challenge of getting to the system in a lower grade system often believe that you don't have capability to be in a higher position, and they started treating you equal to that position. I don't say that's not a right thing to do or a bad thing to do, but still, first UK role matters more than you think. The other biggest challenge for migrant is communication style. Your communication style affects perception. Many migrants have moderate communication skill, and they also have certain accents in most of the time, which is not the local accent. Even in the UK, within the UK, certain regions has where certain accents. So if you are working in particular sectors or the particular regions, you might need to master their accent. Otherwise, you will definitely identified as someone who does not belong to that community or does not belong to that particular region or sector. As a migrant, even though we communicate in a modest way, we let our work to speak louder than we actually speak. But in the UK, visibility and explanation matters. If you fail to explain and if you fail to be visible in your workplace, there's a high chance that you won't be able to get the promotion that you deserved, or else a career progression which takes longer than you're expecting. For an example, if you are not able to explain your impact, people may not see that. This is culture, not confidence. That doesn't mean you don't have any confidence in it. You are confident, but it's just the culture. Confidence is often confused with competence in the UK. Main reason for that is again the communication. In UK workplace, confidence is often identified as your capability. Quiet and thoughtful people might be underappreciated or underestimated. This affects migrants disproportionately. This does not mean you don't have ability to do that job. It just means that you are a quiet and lone worker, or else you are a quiet and a thoughtful person. If you don't able to explain and communicate well, that is the biggest challenge in here. The other challenge is qualifications are not vetted equally in the UK. UK employers are often comfortable with the familiar qualifications. For an example, even though I do have a master's back in Sri Lanka, that does not have any impact in the UK. Unless otherwise, I do have UK valid qualification. That's what lead me to have my CIPD qualification. When I'm applying for a CIPD qualification, I could have go to a senior level of CIPD qualification, but I avoid doing that because I need to find an entry-level job in the UK. If I have a senior level of CIPD qualification, there's a high chance that I might get rejected during the interview process. It just because even though I don't have UK experience, I do have higher CIPD qualifications, which always can be a negative impact for my application process. This issue is very common in health and care sector, engineering, finance, or as professional services. The other thing is culturally fit is rarely said but often considered in the UK. Employers might talk about the fit without defining it. This fit often means communication style, familiarity, and behavior. Migrants are often judged on adaptation, not on skill. Why this feels personal? When you are undervalued, it feels personal. What we need to realize is most of the time it's systematic, it's not personal. It's not a judgment on your intelligence or your worth. Remember, many migrants are not underqualified, they are under-recognized. I'm sharing this based on my experience as a CIPD HR professional and who has worked on various sectors including local government, health and care, hospitality, and my journey as a migrant. These are patterns I observed again and again. If this sounds familiar, you are not alone. I'll continue explaining how UK system works in simple and honest ways. Follow the channel if you want more of it, and please like and subscribe to our channel as well. Thank you.